For the past 10 years, I've talked to a lot of students and a lot of people who work in admissions at PA departments. And today I want to give you some insight on the other side of things, what they see in your CASPA application and what this review process might look like. I'm Savannah, Durham, PA, founder of the PA platform, and I want to give you a little inside look at what your application actually looks like when it hits a school. After you submit on CASPA, what happens? You have this 35 page PDF document, and then what gets read, what gets skipped, how do we even know? And probably most importantly, what makes you stand out when they see your application? I want to set the scene here. A PA school is getting thousands of applications. Some schools do actually publish their numbers, but many don't. But they're getting thousands of applications and they have to go through all of them to some degree, whether it's just a screening to make sure you meet the requirements or they're fully looking at every single application. Most schools are interviewing around 100 applicants, some a little more, some a little less, but that is a huge cut that has to be made. And if we think about the structure of PA school, it's very quick. So you have a year of didactic, a year of clinical, and then these schools are also working on their admission cycle at the same time. It's a lot of moving parts, a lot going on. So one thing we want to keep in mind throughout this process is how we can make it easier for those people looking at your application. My biggest takeaway from this video is that every school is going to be a bit different in how they handle things. And in most cases, we aren't even going to know what that is. And that's from talking to friends who work in admissions and on faculty, colleagues, a lot of our previous YouTube videos and podcast interviews that we've done with faculty and directors. You can go back and watch those and you'll get so much insight. And as well as friends who have served on interview committees. I was able to help out with interviews while I was in school as a student. And now I don't do that because it is a little bit of a conflict of an interest with helping people get into school. I don't want there to be any questionable stuff there, but I do have friends who are still very involved in the process. So again, biggest takeaway is every school does it differently, and most of them don't tell us. We wish they would, right? There are a few schools that will publish rubrics. So if you can find some of these rubrics, even if it's not a school you are applying to, I do think it truly helps giving some insight into how they may score applicants or what that first pass kind of looks like. Maybe on a future video, if it's helpful, we'll do a little deep dive into one of those rubrics, but every school is going to look different. So when I think back to when I applied to PA school, CASPA actually sent physical copies of your application to the schools. I know, I'm ancient. It was like 2011. Now everything is more electronic. And fun fact, one of the schools actually lost my application packet. I got there and they couldn't find it. I don't know how they ended up finding it or if they ever even did, but I got in, so it's okay. But now these schools can access your information and see everything they want fairly quickly. Now, one of the schools I applied to, in their process, your application actually went to the general university admissions office before it ever made it to the PA department. So they did an initial check to see if you had checked all the boxes, if you had the classes, the grades, the experience, all the stuff the PA school was looking for. And one of the really cool things was that I actually got to go sit with them as they went through my checklist. That was something they offered. I found it online where you could do that. And so I contacted the office. I went in after I submitted and we sat down and we looked at my checklist. They told me my GPAs at that point and kind of checked it off with me to make sure I had everything. And then it went to the PA department, assuming all of those boxes were checked. That's why I always say to students when we're working with them, if you don't meet the minimum requirements of a program, it's very unlikely that your application gets looked at. And that's unfortunate. There are schools that are gonna look at everyone holistically, regardless of stats and everything. But if a school has a published minimum, it's for a reason. It's because they are using that as part of their screening process. And typically, due to the accreditation standards, there's not a way around this. You have to meet the requirements that they have set for that program to be considered, and they don't have much wiggle room there. So in working with students, I've found that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but some students think that every single word of their application is read and dissected and evaluated. And honestly, I think in most cases that's not happening just because the length of the applications, the essays, everything that's in them, while they're maybe referencing things that are in your application, in most cases, I don't think you're sitting down and going through every single part. Maybe some schools do, but in most cases, especially let's say it's one person who's going through all the applications for that screening, they may not have time to do that with 1,000 applications. That being said, there are parts of your application that need to be so polished and perfect and ready that you want to make sure that when they do get to reading those parts, they give the information that they need. And that's your chance to really show them why you deserve a spot at their program. When I'm sitting down to look at an application, if I'm getting ready for a pre-PA counseling session or a mock interview or going through them in Pre-PA Academy, I am looking at most parts, but I can scan an application in a couple minutes and get a good feel for that applicant. We'll put up some screenshots of the different parts of the application, and maybe we'll do a deep dive into that PDF also if that's helpful. But essentially you have your biographic information. That's where your life experiences essay and your situational decision-making essay is going to live. And then we get into your academics. So it lists your degrees, where you went to school, all of your courses and the grades you received, and then the GPA sheet. So you get a whole sheet of calculated GPAs. Again, every school is looking at these differently. The overall science and the overall GPA for everything are going to be the main two that are important. I have seen more schools start putting that they're looking at the undergrad GPA as well. So you may want to look at that when you're checking into programs. But we have a really cool tool that's going to help you with that coming soon. Stay tuned. I don't want to spill the beans too soon. And then we get into your experiences, and it lists out your supervisor and what the experience was with your experience details and the total hours. And then we get into your personal statement. It lists out who your letter writers are. Obviously, as applicants, we don't have access to those letters, but the schools would. How many they look at, what order they look at, what order they received, I don't know. And if a school wants a specific letter, they're probably going to look for that specific letter. So that's kind of out of our hands. And I'm a big proponent of not overthinking things that we can't do anything about or that we can't control. So by reading the CASPA FAQ, knowing what we can control, that gives you a little more freedom to let those parts go and just let the schools do their thing. So we have your essays, your letters, and then we get into your achievement, certifications, and then any school-specific information. So that's going to be supplementals for schools, matching prereqs, and then any documents that you've uploaded for them, like a resume, a CV, experience log, that kind of stuff. So it's a whole lot. So for my process, I'm typically looking at that GPA sheet first and then going back and skimming the classes to see if anything stands out like a red flag, any withdrawals, any low grades. I feel like maybe this is part of me being a derm PA where I scan people's skin all day. You get in your groove of knowing what to look for and what stands out as something that's different. And that's just how I do it. Then I go through experiences, same thing, skimming what they are, the total number of hours, making note of anything interesting. Read the personal statement, read the supplementals, see who the letter writers are. And throughout that evaluation, I'm just getting a feel for that applicant as a person and trying to get that whole picture of everything they've done. We'll get into some ways to make sure that your application is as admissions friendly as possible in just a minute. But I just want to let you know that the more that you can make things a snapshot and as easy as possible for your reader, the better. When I'm editing personal statements, that's one of the things I mainly look for is like the flow and if it's chronological and if it makes sense. Essays that jump all over the place are so much harder to read, and if you're reading a bunch back to back, it can get very exhausting. So think about making things easy for your admissions committee. Now I want to touch for a minute on the interview side. So let's say you meet all the requirements. They look at your application in whatever way they look at it. They decide you need an interview. So you get an interview. Going into that interview, it could be a blind interview where they know nothing about you, and you may or may not know this ahead of time, but it could be blind, or they might know a little bit about you. They might have access to your whole application. I have a friend who helps with interviews, and for the ones that she does, she gets basically like a little sheet with a blurb about each person. And she was like, sometimes these blurbs are so random, like swam in college, and that's it. That's all it gave me. Or it says PT Tech, and that's all I get. They may not have much to go off of. So you need to go into the interview ready to give some context, pretend they don't know anything about you. If they're seeing a bunch of people, they may not remember everything about everyone, or just know they may have a few little points. And those fact sheets may have good stuff, they may have bad stuff. They may have grades that you struggled with. And so you want to be upfront, you want to be honest throughout this process to make sure that you are just showing who you are, being genuine, and letting them know what you bring to the table. So how can we make sure your application is strong, stands out, does what it needs to do? Number one, meet the requirements. Try to calculate things ahead of time, know your GPAs, know your grades, check the program websites, and just make sure you have what they are looking for. That's going to save you time and money, and also the schools. They probably love the application fee, but we don't want to do that if you aren't qualified for that program. Number two, make sure your application is GAN friendly, that you have main points highlighted, that it's easy to read, easy to follow. Keep things consistent, and I think that's one of the best ways to do this. And your experience details, if you're using paragraphs, stick with that. If you're using bullet points, stick with that. Try to keep everything the same, and I think that makes it a lot easier. And then as far as essays, the more context, the better. Now, this is a little gray because you only have so many characters, but I want to know in your personal statement what your role was. I have a lot of times where I'm editing an essay and someone gives me a story, but they never told me what their role was. I don't know if you were an EMT, if you were a spectator, if you were an MA, if it was your grandma, or if you were the patient. There's so much, so I'm just kind of like, I don't really know what's going on here, and that can be distracting. So the more context you can provide that just helps the story and your examples make sense will be helpful to your reader. Making sure the beginning of your personal statement just jumps in and isn't random or all over the place. You really don't need a specific theme other than your YPA, and I found that essays with themes tend to get a little muddy as far as like connecting the theme or trying to pull it out. Just everything in your essay should go back to your YPA, and keep asking yourself that throughout your editing process. We're happy to edit for you. We'll put a code up that you can use for a discount. It's Future PA. Just go to the website, and our turnaround time is 4 days. We're editing for content mainly, and then grammar and flow. Don't be scared if it comes back and there's a lot of red on it. That's not always a bad thing. That just means that we have some feedback, good and bad, to give you on your essay. All right, number three, your essays are the most important part of your actual application after you meet the requirements. So these are the parts where you show who you are. You get to explain things that might be holding you back from getting in an interview, and this is your personal statement, your supplemental essays for school. Those are very important. A lot of people I've talked to in admissions say that they put the most weight on those supplemental essays because these are the things that they want to know. They have chosen these questions and these essays and prompts to learn something specific about you, and they're more school specific. They are digging into things, asking about academics or experiences because they want to know those things, and it's something that historically they have found helps with them choosing a class. So spend time on those supplementals to make sure they're all good. Number four, waive your rights to your letters of recommendation. You don't need to see them. If you have asked people who know you well, you should have confidence that they will be strong letters, but we do want to waive those rights. That could be a red flag on your application if it looks like you wanted to see them. And then choose a good mix. So your letter writers are the people who are vouching for you, and that can be a PA, a doctor, a supervisor at work, a volunteer supervisor, a professor. You get to enter 5, and that should get you covered, but don't overthink it. That's my last point. Number 5, just don't overthink it. Put in the info, put in the time, put in the work, and know that at some point you just have to be done and you have to push submit and be ready to turn it in. So I always recommend taking a day off and then coming back and going back through everything, double checking your hours and typos and whatever, and then submitting when you feel like you're ready. So I'm gonna work on getting potentially some faculty to come on here again and talk about some of this with us and get some more events going. We have these types of events in Pre-PA Academy. If you want to join, that's our group coaching. It's $20 a month. We have 3 to 4 live sessions a week where we are teaching, doing Q&A office hours, live edits, live mock interviews, and really helping you throughout this entire process. So that link will be in the description, and we would love to have you join us there. I hope this video has been helpful. Subscribe so you don't miss out out on our future videos. Leave a comment if you have questions or insights into this process, and I would love to have a discussion there with you. And I'll see you in the next video. Next week, we're talking about the most common essay opening I see and why you should probably stop using it. So stay tuned for that one, and thanks for watching. Bye.